warning there's a potential shakeup underway in the Trump campaign after President Trump's Tulsa rally failed to fill arena seats. You recall, Anne-Marie, that leading up to the rally, the President of the United States, Brad Parscale, the campaign manager, all talked about, the number of tickets sold. They were going to have an overflow area. Well, he delivered that speech at an event over the weekend. Despite the growing health threats over the coronavirus, the million tickets that the campaign had been touting did not materialize, or at least the people did not materialize. Only around 6,000 people showed up. Now, this all comes, of course, as President Trump faces new criticism from former National Security Advisor John Bolton, who claims the president poses a major threat to the country.
I don't think he's fit for office. I don't think he has the competence to carry out the job. There really isn't any guiding principle that I was able to discern other than what's good for Donald Trump's reelection.
You say that you were astonished by what you saw. A president for whom getting reelected was the only thing that mattered, even if it meant endangering or weakening the nation?
Well, I think he was so focused on the reelection that longer-term considerations fell by the wayside. So if he thought he could get a photo opportunity with Kim Jong-un at the demilitarized zone in Korea, there was considerable emphasis on the photo opportunity and the press reaction to it, and little or no focus on what such meetings did for the bargaining position of the United States.
All right, so we're going to bring in Weijia Jiang now to talk a little bit more about what Bolton said and some other things. Weijia, you are at the White House. So Bolton's book is set to hit store shelves tomorrow, I believe. He said also in that interview that he believes that the president obstructed justice. And a lot of people are saying, well, if you really thought that he was such a threat to this country, why didn't you participate in the impeachment process? Because a lot of what he's accusing the president of in this book, allegedly, is, what are things that were at the center of the impeachment allegations. How are lawmakers reacting and responding to Bolton's assertions?
Well, both Democrats and Republicans are being very blunt in saying, look, Bolton clearly has a book to sell, and that's why he's speaking out now. They are frustrated that he withheld this information during the impeachment case, especially because, as you noted, he says that there was absolutely a link between investigations into the president's political opponent, former Vice President Joe Biden, and security aid that was withheld from Ukraine. Of course, that was at the heart of the impeachment inquiry. And so lawmakers from both sides are saying, if you knew that, and if you had all this information beyond that, then why didn't you share it with the American people for the sake of the country? And Bolton danced around this in the interview with ABC News, and he said he doesn't think his testimony would have made a difference, and he doesn't think that the Democrats would have been able to use the information to ultimately, change the minds that were already set. I mean, whether or not that's a good enough excuse is up to the American people, whether they want to purchase this book, which, by the way, has already leaked online. And so he does have to answer to his own credibility, and he will continue to do that in various interviews today. But it still, is not necessarily satisfactory that he was sitting on all of these details as someone who was so close to the president and chose not to reveal any of it until now.
Right, and Weijia, as you point out, there are the people who support the president, not only around his administration, but on conservative media that are attacking Bolton, whose conservative credentials date back many decades. They say that he's a liar. They say that he's out to sell books. On the left, as you point out, there are people that are angry for not coming before Congress to testify. But I think it's important that it shouldn't distract from the allegations that Bolton makes in his book, which are astounding when we're talking about a sitting president of the United States, to the point where John Bolton, essentially in that ABC interview with Martha Raddatz, says that he doesn't believe that Trump should be reelected.
Right, and that's why he's saying he is speaking out now, because he wants to issue a warning to the country that President Trump cannot have a second term. He says we can deal with one term of Donald Trump, but two would be difficult to come back from. And that's why he says he is speaking out and willing to do that now. But you're right. I mean, these claims are absolutely jaw-dropping because, again, various people have written books about what happens inside this White House. But he is the highest-ranking official to do that. He had the closest access to President Trump, especially when it comes to matters of national security. And so, you know, his words matter. Even if, you know, he might have ulterior motives, certainly what he says is important. And he lays out several different reasons why he believes President Trump is not fit for office.
All right, Weijia, let me switch gears a little here. Let's talk about this campaign rally that the president held in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And I know that there's a lot of talk around the optics, the number of people that attended, the fact that the president of the United States spent 15 minutes trying to explain away the drinking of the water and the walk down the ramp. But I want to focus on something that I think that he said that was really, really important. He, in a moment during that rally, said that he asked officials to slow down coronavirus testing. He tweeted about it overnight saying, our advanced testing makes it look like we have more cases than any other. I thought that that was an astounding moment. I know that the supporters around the president are trying to explain it away, but how's the White House responding this morning to the mounting outrage over that claim that the president made?
So the official White House response is that clearly the president was speaking in jest. That wasn't clear at all. If you look at the words that he was using, what he was talking about surrounding the bold admission that he asked officials to slow down testing, there was nothing funny about it. And he, you know, in his delivery, and by the way, as someone who has covered this president extensively, you know, personally, I think I can tell sometimes when he is joking and there is a chance for misinterpretation. But when I was watching him on stage talking about testing, I saw none of that. I mean, this was a declaration. This was something that he may have tripped up and accidentally said, but he said that I told my people to slow down testing. And immediately, Vlad, I thought about the beginning months of this pandemic, when we were pressing him so hard about where the tests were. Where are the tests? In fact, at one point, I even asked him whether his delay to embrace widespread testing had anything to do with his desire to want to keep down the number of official cases because of optics. And he denied that and said he just wanted to make sure that the tests were accurate and that, you know, everything was perfectly in place. That was well into the pandemic. And so critics were already asking why there was such a delay in testing and whether it was because he wanted to keep, quote, my numbers down. And so it all lines up. However, the White House says he didn't mean it, and he's very proud of all the testing that the U.S. has done. But I don't think that's going to be enough to make this go away, because, again, if you play back the actual portion of the rally, he doesn't seem to be joking at all. And even if he was, that begs another question, which is why it's appropriate to make jokes during a deadly pandemic. And that hasn't been answered either.
Yeah, and, you know, even in his tweet to sort of explain it away, it's kind of like a partial truth. Yeah, if you do more testing, you're going to get more positive results, but that's actually not the number that we should be focusing on. If you do more testing, the number of positives or the percentage of positives should go down. And what we're seeing is in certain areas, particularly areas that shut down later and reopened sooner, we're seeing spikes in the number of positive cases and another really important number, spikes in the number of hospitalizations. So, you know, it's kind of like, we see this a lot. It's like a nugget of truth, but it's not the full picture, and you always have to ask for the context. But listen, there's like a number of different things we got to touch base with you on, Weijia, before you leave. So I have to ask you about the Trump administration firing New York Attorney General Jeffrey Berman. We know that he was responsible for spearheading a number of investigations into to those close to Donald Trump, including his former personal attorney, Michael Cohen. Democrats want an investigation. What is the reason? What's the official reason for him being fired?
Well, the Justice Department hasn't provided a detailed reason for why he was fired, and he was appointed under the president's former Attorney General, Jeff Sessions. But, you know, this is a man who brings decades of experience to the table, and so far we don't know why he was let go. However, we can say that the president's personal attorney, Rudy Giuliani, said during an interview that it might have been because of quote, BS investigations. Now, Giuliani was at the center, CBS News has learned, of some federal investigations about his lobbying work linked to Ukraine. However, he has denied knowing that Berman's office was actually pursuing an investigation. But I think it is telling that he is willing to come out and say it's because of the content of the investigations might be the reason why he was let go, because we do know that his associates that were also part of the impeachment inquiry are under investigation. And so I think especially Democrats will continue to press for answers. And by the way, we should mention that the president was asked specifically about why he, told Berman or approved his firing. And Trump said, I have nothing to do with that. I wasn't involved. But on the same day, Attorney General Barr sent a letter to this now fired attorney that said, I asked the president to remove you, and he did. And so, the Attorney General is contradicting the president, which only leads to even more questions about this firing that does look mysterious now.
Yeah, Weijia and Anne-Marie, that's the one question that I don't understand. Maybe, Weijia, you can briefly explain to me. If the intent was to fire Mr. Berman and put in his place the SEC director, Mr. Clayton, that's not going to happen because Lindsey Graham just said he's going to wait on the Democrats to make a move, while the Democrats aren't going to make any kind of move in the U.S. Senate. And so from what I understand, Mr. Berman is leaving, but his deputy is taking his position, which I guess means that the investigations are going to continue. So what was the point of this?
We don't know, and that's why this is so perplexing, because they haven't been able to explain. And the Attorney General says that they weren't trying to push Berman out of the department; they just wanted to reassign him. But this is a coveted position. It has led to big roles for people who have held it before. In fact, Rudy Giuliani was once this prosecutor. And so, I think at some point, Barr is going to have to explain exactly why he felt the need to remove Berman and have the president intervene and do so.
All right, Weijia, thank you so much.
Sure.